Labour MP Diane Abbott has been suspended from the party following an investigation into a letter she wrote about racism to the Observer newspaper. In the letter, Abbott suggested that many types of white people with points of difference experience prejudice, but they are not subject to racism all their lives. She later retracted her remarks and apologized for any anguish caused. However, the comments were deemed deeply offensive and wrong by Labour, who suspended her from the party pending an investigation. Abbott had been responding to a comment piece in The Guardian questioning the view that racism only affects people of colour. She wrote that Irish, Jewish and traveller people undoubtedly experience prejudice, which she said is similar to racism. She continued by stating that in pre-civil rights America, Irish people, Jewish people and travellers were not required to sit at the back of the bus, and in apartheid South Africa, these groups were allowed to vote. At the height of slavery, there were no white-seeming people manacled on the slave ships. The Board of Deputies of British Jews called Abbott's comments disgraceful and urged Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer to remove the whip. In response to the criticism, Abbott apologised for any anguish caused and admitted that errors arose in an initial draft that was sent. She went on to say that racism takes many forms, and it is completely undeniable that Jewish people have suffered its monstrous effects, as have Irish people, travellers and many others. Labour MP Dame Margaret Hodge, who is Jewish, called the letter deeply offensive and deeply distressing and backed the suspension of the whip. The Jewish Labour movement also supported the party's decision, stating that we should be unified in our struggle against racism, not divided against one another. A hierarchy of racism only divides communities and assists the racists. The recent history of the Labour Party means that any comment which seems to downplay the experiences of Jewish people is toxic, especially when it comes from a prominent figure associated with the Jeremy Corbyn era. Under his leadership, concerns that anti-Semitism was on the rise culminated in the party being investigated by the Equality and Human Rights Commission, EHRC, and being found to have acted unlawfully. Sir Keir promised tough action to root out anti-Semitism when he became leader in 2020. In conclusion, Diane Abbott's comments have caused controversy and resulted in her suspension from the Labour Party, pending an investigation. The remarks were deemed deeply offensive and wrong by Labour, and the Board of Deputies of British Jews called them disgraceful. While Abbott has apologised for any anguish caused and acknowledged that racism takes many forms, her comments have been criticised for downplaying the experiences of Jewish people. This is a sensitive issue for the Labour Party, which has been accused of failing to tackle anti-Semitism in the past, and the investigation into Abbott's comments is likely to be closely watched.